First of all, let's get something out of the way. This video is not sponsored by COROS, but they did send me this watch for free for testing purposes. I've been using the new COROS NOMAD GPS watch for almost 2 months now, and finally I'm ready to share my thoughts on it as a hiker. Fun fact, COROS actually had to convince me to give them a second chance because they did send me another watch to test 1 year ago, the COROS Apex 2 Pro, and honestly I wasn't a big fan of this watch. I'll tell you why a bit later in this video. So let's just say that I wasn't expecting much from the new COROS NOMAD, but I'm glad that I gave them a second chance because they haven't just changed the look and called it a day. Inside, it's now a completely different watch. They've actually updated a lot of the features aimed at navigating and exploring, which actually makes this watch a good option for hiking and more specifically for through hiking. The new COROS NOMAD is a €350 GPS watch, and you can clearly tell that they've tried to go with a more rugged and outdoorsy look instead of a more minimalistic watch, because they're trying to market it to hunters, fishers, hikers, survivalists, and essentially anyone who's trying to go outdoors and navigate with a GPS watch. It weighs 61 grams, and even though in the pictures it does look quite big and bulky, in real life I would say that it doesn't. It doesn't look too big on your arm. It looks like a regular GPS watch. It has a hardened mineral glass, which is supposedly pretty hard to scratch. In these 2 months of using it, I haven't gotten a single visible scratch, so I would say that the mineral glass does seem to hold up pretty well. For the frame, they now went with a hardened plastic composite instead of metal, which was the main frame for the COROS Apex 2 Pro, and I definitely prefer this over a metal frame because here on the COROS Apex 2, you can clearly see that over time it developed a lot of visible scratches. So if I'd want to resell this watch, it would have a much lower value. I actually did get quite a few scratches on the new COROS NOMAD the first week that I got it because I went bouldering with it, and if you haven't gone bouldering, the walls are essentially like sandpaper, so I accidentally touched it with the watch. I got some deep scratches, but you can't even see them right now because this plastic composite is really good at hiding all of the scratches. And if you're designing a watch for people who are going outdoors, who are doing survival and hiking and stuff like that, you have to anticipate that they're gonna get a lot of scratches on this watch, so I definitely prefer this frame material. Of course, it's also waterproof, just like most other GPS watches nowadays, so you don't have to worry about it getting wet. You can go hiking in rain with it, you can go showering with it, you can go swimming in it. In fact, I've done all of these things with this watch and it has survived so far. The only thing that you can't do is go deep water diving under 50 meters. It also has an operating range of minus 20 degrees Celsius to plus 50 degrees Celsius, which is a good thing because it means that you can continue hiking with this watch in the winter as well. One really cool thing for through hiking is that now with the new COROS NOMAD, you don't need to carry an extra cable to charge this watch. Instead, it now comes with this small adapter. It's actually smaller than this. It's this small, and you essentially plug it into any Type-C USB cord and you can charge this watch. So you can save a bit of space and a bit of weight. There are also some improvements to the button layout, which I really like, because on the previous watch, the Apex 2 Pro, all of the buttons were laid out over to one side and you could stop an activity by accident very, very easily. In fact, it happened all the time for me. With the new COROS NOMAD, that doesn't happen anymore because the buttons are spaced out, they're further away from each other, and also it has 2 buttons on one side and 1 button on the other side. The only thing that I don't like about the build of the new COROS NOMAD is that by default it comes with the silicone strap. I can pretty much guarantee that over time this silicone will wear out and the strap will come undone by accident all the time. Even now, whenever I'm changing a shirt or I brush against the watch by accident, the end comes undone very easily, and it's definitely far from ideal. I very much preferred the system on the Apex 2 Pro, which had a Velcro nylon strap, which was very easy to use, and it pretty much never came undone by accident. The good news is that the band on the new COROS NOMAD is very easy to change. You can do it at home. The bad news is that currently it is out of stock. I did reach out to COROS and they did confirm to me that they are planning on restocking these nylon bands specifically for the COROS NOMAD, but you have to wait until they restock them. By default, the screen is locked and dimmed down in brightness to preserve the battery life. You can clearly see what it's saying during the daytime, especially if it isn't sunny outside, but you're not going to see anything when it's dark. To view it a bit better, you can turn on the backlight by pressing any of the 3 buttons, which will increase the brightness on the screen for a few seconds. I've currently selected a different watch face because I prefer this one a bit better, which shows the current date, time, daily steps, daily calories, current heart rate, current elevation, and a few other things over here at the top. But if you you don't like this watch face, you can select any other watch face within the app. They're all completely free, and the good news is that there are a ton of different watch faces to choose from. The first window that you can open is by scrolling down this top right button, and it opens up the daily data window. You can customize everything that you see here to show the most important things first, and you can hide all the things that you don't want to show underneath more data. I personally showed the daily activity window first, which shows the daily calories and daily steps and a few other things. And if you press the top right button, it will show the history for these statistics for the past 7 days. One thing that I really like is that this data is saved for a really long time, and it saves to the app on your phone. If you open the app, you can click on the steps and it will show you the data for the past week, month, or even a year. For example, you can see that during the past year, I have hiked on average 10,000 steps every day. I think this is really useful to see because it allows you to show some kind of data, how you're progressing in the long run. You can see in which months you did better, in which months a bit worse, and you can progress and improve on that over time. One other cool thing is that it saves all of these statistics also for all of your activities. So for example, if I click on activities, then statistics, and select hiking as the main activity, I can see that during the past year, on average, I have hiked 69 kilometers per month. Or for example, that I've cycled around 87 kilometers per month. And I can see which months I did more, which months a bit less, and I can improve on that. Another useful thing that it records is the sleep quality. So essentially it records how much you've slept each night and how much of that was deep sleep. So you can see how well you're sleeping over time. The daily data window also shows some other useful information, like for example, the weather forecast, the sunrise and sunset times, the current heart rate, and also a lot of other useful and not that useful things, which you can again customize to show or hide depending on your preferences. Now let's go back to the home screen, and the next window that you can open is the toolbox, and you can open it by pressing the bottom right button and holding it for a few seconds. The toolbox contains a lot of other useful things, like for example, the alarm, the stopwatch, the watch settings, the oxygen meter, compass, map, and a few other features, which again, you can customize to show or hide within the app. Now let's go back to the home screen, and the third and final window is the activity window, and you can open it by pressing the top right button. There are a lot of different activities that you can record on this watch, and I really mean a lot of different activities. So one thing that you can do is go within the app settings on your phone, and within the activity menu settings, select which ones you're going to be using most frequently. I like to keep things simple, so I've selected only 3 activities: hiking, cycling, and running. To start any activity, simply select it and press the top right button. But before you do that, you might want to change some settings within the app, because by default, in my opinion, COROS puts way too much information within the activity windows. I've set mine to show just one screen, and currently it shows the activity time, the distance, the current elevation, heart rate, burned calories, and the current time of the day. For whatever reason, COROS also thinks that you'll want to record laps while hiking. I don't know how that would even work, but whatever, you'll want to turn it off within the settings over here as well, because by default it's turned on. Simply select the bottom right button as none set, and also while you're here, turn off any activity alerts, because in my opinion, they're also not that useful while hiking. One thing that I didn't like with the Apex 2 Pro is that whenever you started a hiking activity, it didn't load the map by default. You had to open the toolbox, open the map, and then exit it, and then add it to your activity screen. And it was all just unnecessary steps, because whenever you're hiking, you're gonna want to need a map as well, right? With the new COROS Nomad, it's now much more simple. Simply press the left button and it opens up the map instantly. It's loaded up there by default. It's a small change, but in my opinion, very useful if you're going to be using this watch for hiking. Now let's go back to the main activity window by pressing the left button. And for example, if you want to stop the activity, but you want to continue the next day, you can do that. Press the top right button and then scroll down and click on resume later. This is really useful when you're through hiking and you want to stop for the evening to set up a tent, set up campfire, and so on. And then the next morning you can resume this activity. Simply press the top right button again and it will resume from where you left off. Really useful for through hiking. Another way to use the hiking activity is to navigate a specific hiking trail, and then the watch will show you directions instead of simply recording the activity. First, you're going to need to find a trail that you'd like to navigate. For example, you can find an already existing trail on Wikiloc or AllTrails, or you can create a custom route yourself and then download the .gpx file on your phone. Then you need to open this .gpx file within the COROS app. It will open an overview page of this hike, and then you simply need to sync it with your watch before you go out hiking. To navigate it, go to the hiking activity, select navigate, and then find the trail that you recently synced to the watch. watch, and then start the activity. Now the activity page is a bit different. It has two additional windows. When you scroll down, you'll see how much distance and how many meters of elevation you still need to do to get to the end point. And if you scroll down again, it will show the elevation profile, which is useful for anticipating when the trail becomes steep and when it's flat. And now when you open up the map, you'll see a red line, which you simply need to follow. This watch also has some alerts. So for example, if you go off the trail, I think it's about 30 or 50 meters off the trail, it will beep and let you know that you're off the trail that you're trying to follow. One cool thing about this is that it doesn't keep beeping all the time. It isn't annoying, at least it doesn't feel like that. It beeps once, then it beeps again after a few more meters, and then it just beeps occasionally to let you know that you're not following the trail, but it doesn't beep all the time, which I think is really cool because sometimes you want to take an unplanned shortcut and it would be pretty annoying if the watch would beep all the time and let you know that you're off the trail, when in reality you're just trying to take a shortcut. It also has turn-by-turn directions, which means that before each turn it will beep and let you know that there's an upcoming fork in the trail. I personally think that this is the best way to navigate a trail while you're through hiking on a GPS watch, because it means that you don't need to take out your phone all the time to look at the map. You can see everything here on your watch. This also means that you can preserve a lot of battery life on your phone because the GPS watch uses much less electricity compared to your phone. One of the main reasons why I now like the new COROS Nomad is because it has much better maps compared to their previous watches. They now load much quicker and smoother because of a more powerful processor. You can now zoom into a closer distance, up to 15 meters. They've added a lot of new labels for towns, water sources, and other points of interest, and they've also made a better distinction between trails and roads. Well, the COROS Apex 2 Pro, honestly, the maps weren't very good. They didn't contain a lot of useful information, not a lot of points of interest, and also they loaded quite slowly. So this meant that I still had to take out my phone all the time to look at the upcoming map in more detail. But with the new COROS Nomad, the maps now load very quickly and they contain a lot of useful information, like for example, water sources, upcoming campsites and stuff like that, which means that I don't need to take out my phone as much. Another cool thing about COROS Maps is that you can download offline maps completely for free on their website. I personally live in Europe, so for example, for me personally, I downloaded the offline maps for whole Europe and then I uploaded them to the watch once, which wasn't that difficult to do. Now, essentially, if I don't have any maps on the phone, if the phone stops working for whatever reason, I'll always know where I am and I won't get lost because I have offline maps for whole Europe in this watch. Another thing that you'll now find if the map is open is that if you press the top right button, you can pin your current location or you can pin a current nearby location. The first type of pin that you can make is a voice pin because the watch now comes with a built-in microphone, but honestly, I don't think it's really that useful. I couldn't see myself using it that much, and also the microphone quality isn't really that good. Currently testing the voice pin. As you can see, the quality is not really that great for the built-in microphone. The next one is a regular current location pin, and I think this one is quite useful because, for example, you could be out hiking and you find a good mushroom spot. You could pin that location to remember it next year. Or you can also make a more detailed pin, for example, to mark a water source. One other important thing is that now whenever you're recording an activity, for example, a hiking activity on the watch, and whenever you take a photo, the COROS app will now remember where and when you've taken this photo. This is important because now whenever you finish an activity and it automatically syncs to your phone, all of these pins and all of these photos that you took will now show up on the map, but of course you can remove them if you want to. So if, for example, you want to share your hike on social media, this screenshot by default is a pretty cool feature. You can also, of course, change the background map and select what kind of data you want to show at the bottom. But one really cool feature that now comes with the new COROS Nomad is the 3D flyover video. By default, it creates a very cool looking 3D animation of the whole hike, but you can make it even better by adding all of the photos that you took within this hike. I think this feature is really cool because it offers a new way of sharing my hikes on social media, and it's all done automatically. The battery life on this watch really depends on what kind of satellite tracking you've selected within the settings. And the two main settings are dual frequency and all systems on, with dual frequency being more precise. I've tested both of these modes for accuracy on two separate hikes. The first hike was pretty normal. It was on a normal mountainous terrain with not a lot of steep cliffs, but with a lot of forests and occasionally with some open views to the sky as well. With all systems on, which is represented by this red line, the recorded hike was mostly accurate, except for a few occasional occasional turns where it wandered off a few meters. In a few instances, it also seemed to do some weird glitches, but it corrected itself fairly quickly. On the way back, I turned on dual frequency, the more precise tracking mode, which is represented by the green line. Honestly, I couldn't even tell much of a difference because even though it did seem to be more accurate in some places, in a few other places, it did seem to be a bit less accurate. Also, take these readings with a bit of a grain of salt because the maps that you see in the background of these trails and roads aren't always 100% accurate, especially in more remote places. For example, over here, I definitely remember a curve which wasn't represented on the official map. Anyway, if you zoom out, I would say that both of these readings seem to be pretty accurate. I also did another test in a more challenging environment, in a deep river valley with very steep cliffs on both sides. Again, the all systems mode is represented with the red line and the dual frequency mode with the green line. Here, I definitely could see some improvements from the dual frequency mode. For example, over here, even though both of them struggled to be accurate, the dual frequency mode managed to stay a bit closer to the official trail. And here, in the most difficult part with the steepest cliffs on both sides, the all systems mode struggled quite a bit, and you can even see that it glitched over here and the dual frequency mode didn't. So how I would interpret these results is that you can leave the watch for like 99% of the time on all systems on, because the improvement that you get from dual frequency is very, very minimal, and it drains a lot more battery. You should only turn on dual frequency whenever you're hiking in very, very challenging terrains. For example, in a city with very large concrete buildings on either side, they tend to mess with the GPS signal quite a bit, or whenever, for example, you're hiking in a deep river valley with very steep cliffs on either sides. The elevation measuring was the main reason why I didn't like the COROS Apex 2 Pro. At first they were good, they were very accurate, but after several weeks they just became bad. And on some occasional hikes, the recorded elevation gain was twice as much as what it should be. I did talk with COROS about this, and they told me that it's definitely not supposed to be like that, that probably the barometer sensor on this watch was faulty or clogged up with sweat, which could also happen. And that under normal circumstances, this watch would be replaced under warranty. So because of these reasons, I was paying a lot of attention to the elevation data on the new COROS Nomad, and honestly, so far I haven't found any problems. Also, on all of my recorded hikes, I have checked the total elevation gain, and it does seem to stay in line with what it's supposed to be. So essentially, I got nothing bad to say about the elevation on the new COROS Nomad, but of course I'll keep monitoring this watch for issues, and if I see that anything is starting to go wrong with this watch, I'll make sure to write it in the first comment down below. I'll pin it so you're able to see it. The longest that I've used the Nomad for was on a 4-day hike with 66 kilometers hiked in total and 28 hours of activity time. During the night, I paused the hike and resumed it back in the morning whenever I continued hiking. At the start of this hike, I had a completely full battery, and at the end of it, I had 40% left, which means that if you're going to be using this watch for thru hiking, recording an activity every day for a lot of hours every day, you're going to be needing to charge it once every 6 or 7 days, which in my opinion is a pretty good result. I didn't test it on dual frequency for that long, but I would guess that based on the battery estimates, I would say that if you're going to be using it on dual frequency all the time while thru hiking, you're going to need to charge it once every 4 or 5 days. So I would personally recommend you to use it on all systems on whenever you're thru hiking. I also did some other tests, and if you're not going to be recording any activities at all, if you're essentially going to be using this only as a normal watch, then the battery should last you about 33 days, which is really good, and it is better than the advertised battery rate. And if you're going to be recording an activity for 1 hour every day, which in my opinion is generally how most people would be using this watch, then the battery should last you about 21 days, which again is a really good result. I personally think that COROS really nailed it with their new COROS Nomad GPS watch. I think it's a really good watch for outdoors in general, but more specifically for thru hiking because it has good maps, good battery, it's very precise, it has good durability, and above all, it isn't that expensive. Of course, 350 euros is still quite a bit for a watch, but if you consider that it's a high quality GPS watch compared to other GPS watches, that's actually a pretty good price. As I said earlier, I personally don't like the silicone band. I think the nylon band that came with the Apex 2 Pro was much better and much more durable, but I think that currently, even as is, this is a really good option for hiking and thru hiking specifically. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please subscribe and I'll see you in one of my next videos. Bye!